join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, the Nottingham Forest podcast, hosted by myself, Greg Oram, and with me, of course, it's the Oklahoma kid, Richard Spray. Today's guests is the Florida Fox, Jamie Tatler, and the Boston Banshee, Steph Wilkinson. Forest are into the Europa League quarterfinals after a huge night in Denmark, a 2-1 away win at FC Midtjylland, followed by a composed performance in the penalty shootout to get it done. It had everything: goals, big moments, controversy, and a real test of mentality. So in this first half episode, we're going to break it all down, the performance, the key decisions, the big contributions, and what it tells us about those so-called second-string players who did step up last night. Then, in the second half of this pod, we're going to turn our attention to Sunday, a massive Premier League trip to Tottenham Hotspur. Off the back of a European high, how do Forest manage it? Selection, energy, approach. It's another huge game for both relegation candidates, and whoever can come out on top will stake a massive claim for Premier League survival. Forest struck back last night, though, against bogey boys FC Midtjylland, and as they say, revenge is a dish best served cold.
Osorio leading the charge. Gibbs White running back. Here's Andreasen slicing through. And surely that's the winning goal for Midtjylland. Show the target and he scored. The referee's had a look at the watch and he blows the full-time whistle of Mikkel Tolberg. And the Midtjylland bench celebrate. Nottingham Forest lose the first leg at home. There's the Midtjylland supporters.
Do you know the Klingon proverb that tells us revenge is a dish that is best served cold? Best served cold.
Hangs that one in. There's the header that loops all the way in. Nicholas Dominguez gets Forest level in the tie.
Best served cold.
Laid off to Yates, who fancies a goal! Oh, he got it all right! Ryan Yates tips the tie in Forest's favour!
Best served cold.
Oh, and it hits the post! Advantage Nottingham Forest early days. Time to put Forest 2-0 up, which he does! Oh, it's the post again! Fantastic penalty! 30 years on, Nottingham Forest are back in a European quarter-final!
I got very self-indulgent because lately I've not really dabbled with my intros because the results haven't gone our way and it's been a little bit meh. So I thought, you know what, it's time to roll out the editing software and get a little bit playful. And you know what, it does feel really good that we did manage to overcome FC Midtjylland last night because, they were kind of getting a little bit carried away with their 2 wins at the City ground. And last night, we not only won on the night in the game, but that penalty shootout was absolutely cold. And so, yeah, thrilled to bits with that. Thank you for being with us. If you're in the chat, let us know your thoughts on last night's game and let us know your thoughts on some of the players because there's plenty to talk about. We're going to ask you as well to go ahead and hit like on the video, please, and subscribe if you can. Matt Wooten says, good morning all, great fluidity in the first half. It did missed it a bit when changes were made. Hopefully with the win and going through will give us a bigger boost than what Spurs got from their game. That's something we'll be talking about in the second half. Thank you very much to Mark. Again, a £2 into the pot donation. And we were saying it before we came on air. We all live in a world of Ryan Yates. He's my man behind me. He's behind Richard. And he's on the back of Jamie Tatler as well. There we go. Fantastic. All right, let's get into it. Let's get some first thoughts. Steph, welcome back to Talking Reds. It's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
Let's have your first thoughts, Steph, on the game against FC Midtjylland and the whole tie in general.
Well, I think my first thought is I really should go run and do a wardrobe change so I can put my Yates jersey on so I can match all of you. I thought it was a spectacular match. I think we saw some really, I think, surprising performances from people like Bakwa. I mean, I thought he did an amazing job on set pieces. You look at, like, so happy for Dominguez and getting his goal. And obviously, you all know I love Ryan Yates. So I actually was texting with my husband yesterday before the match and said, I have a feeling Ryan's going to score today. So, I think it was really, really great to see some good performances from what we've all been calling the fringe players. And I really feel like we got to keep this momentum going. And it also kind of feels like, Pereira's gotten enough time with this squad to start to see, I think, some real changes and see some real positivity. Hopefully this will move us forward to Sunday because, we really need to pick up, the 6 points.
We do. Thank you very much. Jamie, we were like chatting away in the WhatsApp group, one or two of us that were watching, and like as the game was unfolding. What did you make of it, mate? Obviously we got the win, so I know you're thrilled, but give us your general thoughts on the game, buddy.
Yeah. You just have to remember, I think, like, what a privilege. Like, it's a real privilege to watch a team in Europe, isn't it? And I don't know if any of us really enjoyed the group phase that much because we saw some really terrible performances. They clearly impacted our league form, and there was, I think, almost not a resentment, but we're all aware that this kind of campaign is going to impact our ability to stay in the Premier League, and there's so much change each week in the teams. And there was not a lot of jeopardy because we all knew like you could lose X amount of games and still make the playoffs. So there wasn't a lot at stake in those group games. So I don't know if anyone really enjoyed it as much as we were hoping we would. But now it's knockout European football. Like, that's wonderful, isn't it? Like, and that's what I was reminding myself watching it yesterday, particularly the last 10 minutes where it was on a knife's edge and, one goal, either side was going to win it late on. And it's like, what a privilege to watch a team in these situations, because I can barely remember the 96 campaign the last time. So, yeah, just got to try and enjoy it, haven't we? But I had a good feeling about it. I remember just before kickoff, they were all huddled around and Yates was giving a pep talk to everyone, and they were locked in on his every word. And you realise how much respect he must have in the group, that he was talking to everybody. And Steph Ortega, who, remember up until a few months ago was playing with real superstars at Manchester City. Ortega was nodding along and was completely transfixed on Yates's every word in that huddle. You just thought this guy's up for it, and he's going to make everybody on that team up for it as well. And he did, and we were, and it was great. Yeah, loved it.
You bang on, and you said in the WhatsApp group last night as well, on that kind of 80-minute mark or thereabouts. Listen, guys, enjoy this. This is European football. This is European knockout football. Yeah. And I knew exactly what you meant, and you've just underlined it. Then is the group stages are fine. The jeopardy's there, but it's not really there because you kind of think we're going to get through. Obviously, it came to pass against Fenerbahce, but when you go 3-0 up in the first leg, I know we kind of almost blew it, but last night was that real kind of European tie, wasn't it? Away from home, you've gone 1-0 down in the first leg against the bogey team that, again, I think was one of the big moments in our season, big low points in our season. Certainly for Ange, definitely, because not long after that was him getting sacked. But for us as a club where we've been on a roller coaster, up and down, that was a real low moment. So to get that game last night against Midtjylland and go there and perform in the way we did, Richard, because, the team selection was something that we just didn't know what was going to turn out like. It has been a guessing game a lot this season. So your overriding thoughts, Richard, but also bring into play the team selection. I mean, there are a lot of changes there. Were you wholly surprised at that?
I think to a degree, what's interesting is the Braga match for me created a tipping point where I felt like Dyche is losing the room and our performance levels are just not reaching what they need to be. Then you fast forward and you look at the Midtjylland first leg, and it felt like a tipping point to, I don't want to be in this anymore. I don't want to sacrifice anything in relation to the Premier League because it's so important to our sustainability as a club. We've worked so hard for decades to get back. We can't lose that opportunity, even though we worked hard for decades to get back to Europe. But as a general whole, it was such a bizarre match. It literally made me Google, is there such a thing as a Greek curse? And there is such a thing as a Greek curse. And if it certainly seemed like it was evident during that penalty shootout. That was absolutely the most bizarre penalty shootout I have ever seen, frankly. Oh my goodness gracious. But yeah, I thought it what it did was it enlivened and clearly Pereira must have known something with that team selection, because he saw how Midtjylland performed in that first leg with a bulk of their players that normally start, right? The ones that started against us, the ones that really worked us over that first time round. And so I definitely felt like maybe he felt there was something that he could get out of these players. I mean, he's talked about McAtee. We haven't seen the best of someone like Backwell, being a young player who's not getting the minutes, not getting the opportunity to shine, as it were. When he did, he wasn't performing to a level that gave you any confidence in his ability moving forward. Luka, for goodness sakes, I mean, he, aside from the terrible miss, I mean, he does bother me a little bit because he's a bit of a paper tiger. I mean, he tends to go down very easily for a guy who's that big. Tends to get kind of bullied off the ball for someone that large. So it's but I thought as a general whole, he played pretty well. I mean, Steph was right on the money. I think there's definitely gives you a little bit more confidence in McAtee's precision and just his surgical like passes, and just shows you there's something there that we can work on. And you've said that, Greg. We both felt that way in terms of him being on the cusp of opportunities, potentially getting a Premier League start, potentially just getting more minutes in the Premier League. He's a Premier League player. I mean, he's been there. He's seen it. I mean, yeah, with like Jamie said, with guys of a level that we could only hope to have at some point in our future, but certainly it felt like he was kind of orchestrating a lot, and it was just great to see them find joy again in football and find that hope. I think it carries over a belief potentially that we've all wanted from this experience, and so I think it really, as JB said, it enlivened the players, it enlivened in the fan base. It helped us all feel like it's finally nice to feel, or at least sing in your head, you've lost that love and feeling, right, Greg? That was the thing that you had said, and I think on the previous episodes, you just wanted to hear that ringing through again, and so I think we got that. It was an excellent experience, I think, for everyone, especially for those like Steve and others, like Greg Mitchell, others who were there, were present, got that European experience away that they've longed hoped for in such a critical, high pressure situation. But it really gives me a lot of hope, I think, leading into Spurs, that we can actually show up and really take it to him.
It was so good to hear the Forest fans in full voice, and I salute those fans. They were magnificent. I'm envious. It's not possible for all of us to go to these European games. Obviously, you guys in the States, pretty much impossible. But I want to salute a lot of the fans that are going to every single away game. Like, I want to salute the likes of Ben Dorr and Des Oldham and Gary Marriott, to name three. And I know there's more, so please don't think I've left you out. But I see these guys posting pictures, and they're there. They're like home and away, all European games. And, I kind of feel like you guys are representing the whole fan base, and you're there and you're behind the team. So well done to you guys. We could hear you. We could hear you, and it was magnificent. But Steph, it felt like Groundhog Day. It felt like we had the first leg tied up. If we'd put 3 chances away, we lost 1-0. And I thought, is it coming back again? Groundhog Day. We had the beautiful pass from McAtee that Yates put onto the bar. We had Luka, as Richard said, putting one over the bar. We had other chances before we scored. Did you think it really was going to be one of those days again?
Yes, I absolutely did. I was like, okay, here we go. We're on this ride again. And you're right. It does feel like Groundhog Day. I think, going into, extra time and then with the penalties, it was so nice to be in a penalty shootout and not be so stressed I wanted to pull my hair out. So I was very thankful for their 3 misses. It just made, it made the match just even better. And I think talking about the away fans, if you saw Yates's interview yesterday after the match, you could see how touched he was about the fan support that they, for game in and game out, how much these fans who travel, how important they are to the team and to the players on the pitch.
So, Steph, looked like a 3-4-3 that kind of like went quite fluid. We went with wing backs, with Bakwa and Ndoye looking like they were operating in that role. And you mentioned Bakwa before. I mean, he's had it tough. Did you think that he's made a case now that his Forest career is underway?
I hope so for his benefit. Plus, we need the depth. So, I think that it's going to be really important for these players to continue to perform on the pitch. And I hope he gets more time because that's the tough part is you're coming into these matches playing so cold. It's hard to develop any sort of rhythm, and I think it's also hard to develop any sort of rhythm with the other players on the pitch as well. So I'm hoping, and we still now that we're through to quarterfinals, we still have a lot more games to go, and we've got to start picking up some points.
We do. Yeah. Vítor Pereira had hoped, Jamie, for an advantage in terms of scoreline to take to Denmark, but we had the deficit. And then when he makes that many changes, I mean, look, the whole of the Twitter sphere some were having meltdowns, some still had meltdowns after the game, which we'll get into. But the only kind of real bona fide, hard, fast starters in our first team were Milenkovic, really, and then you got Ndoye, who's not really a hard, fast starter, hasn't been of late. Dominguez is kind of a 50-50 hard, fast starter, isn't he? Because, he plays in some games when we pack in midfield, and other games he's on the bench. But other than that, I mean, you got Zach Abbott coming in, who I thought was fantastic, I have to say. Yeah. He was really good. So those second string players stood up. They were making a case possibly to get some minutes in the Premier League. Who stood out for you most from that batch of players that started the game in the Hutchinson, I guess you could say, maybe another half-fast starter. McAtee, Bakwa, Luca, again, he wasn't amazing, but he had his best game clearly for us. You're kind of like maybe not sure about him. Who did you think?
Yeah. I think one big question we've got now is a goalkeeper as well, because Ortega didn't put a foot wrong at all. I think his distribution's probably better than Sells. So there's a big question mark over who our first choice goalkeeper is now, and it's nice to have two really solid options. So that's one position that's now up for grabs, I think. McAtee for me was the pick of the bunch. And we've said that a few times, haven't we, when he's actually had a start in his number 10 position. I know he was one of 2 10s last night, kind of to the left. But he was great, and he's so calm on the ball. He can play. That pass for Yates' volley onto the bar was sublime. He bent that round the back of the defence. It's undefendable, really. And Yates did really well on his weaker foot. I just think he just couldn't quite keep it down, but no blame attached to him for not scoring that. But yeah, I thought McAtee was great. And the other benefit to McAtee's style is that it's almost like a perfect contrast to the way Gibbs White plays the 10, who's more direct and more doing everything at speed. McAtee slows it all down, is much calmer. So if we could find a way to get them both into the team, if that formation last night with the 2 10s, if that was McAtee on the left and Gibbs White on the right together, I think there's a real potential in that combo. So McAtee was the pick for me, and I think we need to start finding a way to work him into the Premier League games. Bakwa, yeah, it's been mentioned. I think he did well. It was just one. I only remember one instance where he kind of fumbled a little bit, where he got into a good position and just kind of lost the ball on the left of the penalty area.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Apart from that, though, yeah, he, everyone said, his set piece delivery was levels above most of our delivery so far this season. We've had pretty much everybody attempted, it feels like, at some point, and he was putting them right on the money on the edge of the 6-yard box, causing them problems. So that's an added benefit. Ndoye disappointed me a bit, I would say, and I think we've all felt that throughout the season, but he had another big opportunity and just didn't really take it. I don't know what his best position is. I don't know what his best attributes are. He's not really technical. He's not really fast. He's not really athletic. I don't quite know where we fit Ndoye in. Obviously, there must be a player in there somewhere, but he's flattered to deceive again. Yates, we've all talked about how good he was. I mean, we've favoured technical players throughout this season, in central midfield particularly. Sometimes you just wondered, do we just need a bit of grit and steel, and that's what Yatesy brings. And for the remaining games and the dogfight we're in, I don't think anybody after last night would be upset to see Yatesy a bit more involved in Premier League either. So a lot of those players raised their hand for starts. Luca, I mean, the ball can stick to him. He did hold the ball up and knock it off well, but Jesus can do that too. He just, his lack of goal threat when he gets into these positions, like he just scuffs these chances time after time. With the ball at his feet, you just don't have no confidence he's going to score. So yeah, I know Luka was okay, but that's he'd set a pretty low bar. So I think he was okay, but we could still be playing now, and I don't think he'd have had an attempt on in the back of the net. But yeah, positive for the fringe players, and we've been hoping they would take these opportunities that they've had in Europa League, and throughout the season they haven't done until last night when a lot of them did, which is nothing but a good thing. And I know we're going to get on to Spurs, but I don't care that we did 120 minutes last night and Spurs only did 90 the night before. I would much rather be in our position having taken that win and that momentum and that positivity into that game on Sunday than them, which is another, they're out of Europe and really nothing positive in their world. So I think we're in a good spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. On the minutes, I have got this written down. I was going to bring it in at some point, and this is a good point to do that. When you say we did 120 minutes, we didn't really. We played 120 minutes, but Milenkovic, Hutch, and Dan Ndoye came off. They played 61 minutes. Morgan Gibbs-White, Nico Williams, and Murillo, they came on. They played 59 minutes. Anderson and Aina played 45 minutes each. Sangare played 30 minutes. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Igor Jesus, and Matt Sells didn't play any minutes. So out of all those players that you would say are probably your hard fast starters, I mean, they've all played no more than an hour, and some played much less. So, if these professional footballers on a Thursday night, it's almost like training minutes. They've hardly trained, fast and hard. So I'm not worried at all, and I don't think we should be worried about the tiredness factor, Richard. I kind of feel like that should be a banished word now, potentially. But back to the game. Conscious we got a Spurs preview to get in as well, so we'll kind of try and fly through a bit, guys. How important was the first goal? Dominguez got it eventually, looping header. He does pop up with important goals. Did the way at West Ham as well?
I mean, I thought it was.
Yeah, he seems to find his archetype, right? I mean, Callum's got his archetype from that left side. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, everything. It was everything. Oh,
I think you're on a delay. It's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just saying it's interesting. His archetype now has become looping headers, whereas Callum's is like from the left side, curling in a ball, with precision and power, from outside the box. But yeah, it's been everything. It's been everything since last season. When we didn't get it last season, when we didn't have that first goal, you could tell it was going to be, especially with certain teams like a Bournemouth or others, where it just felt like it was always a dogfight. In Everton, right? We couldn't just seemingly control things. We couldn't just sort of dominate, This season's been a bit weird because we were dominating in matches, but we're not getting that goal, and we're getting the chances, but we're not getting that goal. And so it was absolutely the thing that I think set the tone for the remainder of that match, because we felt like we were rewarded for the work that was being done in that first half. I mean, it was, if you look at SofaScore and you look at the attacking trajectory graphic, it's completely us. I mean, there was zero effort and intensity it felt like from Midtjylland, but that was the first match too. And to your point about the minutes, it almost felt like Pereira had a plan in place, and it just unfolded to perfection, because he even said it after the match. He wanted to kind of balance the energy of the match. And I think that meant like the energy the players had to expend, in these different lines that we've talked about, like Steph loves hockey, those different lines that you deploy, right? Where you feel like you have some synergy amongst the players, but you also want to be able to spell players at certain points to give yourself a little bit of an advantage. It felt like that's what he had. And it's all, even though it went to penalties, which is not what we have hoped. We would have hoped that Ryan Yates' header wouldn't have been offsides, and then the game ends, right? Right before the end of that second extra time.
Those penalties were something else. So actually,
I know. I mean, it gave you one of the most interesting unique experiences as a fan you're ever going to see from a penalty, because as I said about that Greek curse, I was like, how in the world did they not even come close? I mean, it was absolutely mind-blowing. They just completely collapsed. So, it was great for us to succeed in a moment of intense pressure, and knowing that even though we can go out, and some of the fans, like even myself, we've said it, Greg, before, others, like even Raph on the last episode was like, yeah, I'm at that tipping point now. I'm kind of over the whole Europa experience. I'm ready to kind of transition to just focusing on Premier League and let these guys play at their maximum levels with a maximum amount of rest. But in this situation, I agree with you. I think it all unfolded exactly as Pereira wanted. He seemed really pleased, obviously, after the match. He looked excited. We got a fist pump. We all need fist pumps in our lives, right? Like one of the great, things from Steve Cooper that will always resonate, So it was, I think just holistically, it was just a great thing to have because we need that kind of energy, that kind of cohesiveness, togetherness that the team seems to have now. Looking at that picture of Pereira standing in front of the boys and all of them are just smiling and beaming and just, this is what we needed, I think, to give us that edge going into the remainder of the season for Premier League.
Yeah. Goal just before halftime was great. FC Midtjylland looked all over the shop. Steph, they looked like they were going to make changes. We start second half. I was thinking, don't change anything. And then Mr. Yates steps up with an absolute screamer, which means that Ryan Yates has now scored in the National League, in League Two, in League One, in the Championship, in the Premier League, in the League Cup, in the FA Cup, and in the Europa League. So he is Mr. Forest. Sum up your love for Ryan Yates and how good was that goal, Steph?
I just love him. I was so happy for him because I also think that there's a huge part of the fan base that, because he's not such a technical player, they just give him such a hard time. But he's the heart out there on that pitch. And you can see how much energy he brings to it and how much leadership he brings. And those things, I think mean more. And I think it was really important for us in the sense of I never feel like this team has a strong mindset. So I always feel like we need as much of an advantage as we can get, as many goals advantages, because then we're going to concede. And then are we going to be in a position that, we're going to fight back? And that isn't something that we've done very well as far as coming from behind and fighting back. So, getting that goal gave us for me, it was like the ability to take a deep breath.
Bruce is with us. He says, Ryan Yates gave a captain's performance. He left everything on the pitch. Jackie Howarth says, good afternoon all. Sorry I'm late. What a performance. Don't worry. Stay behind after class, Jackie. We'll have a word with you. Jamie, were Midtjylland always going to come back into it? Home team. They've gone 2-1 back behind. We know that it was ultra physical all game. They were putting it in and leaving an elbow in and leaving a foot in. So take us through their goal that equalised the tie overall. Morato got a little bit of heat. I don't think he had too much at his door in terms of blame. How did you see it?
So to answer your first question, were they always going to come back into it? No, they shouldn't have done. We shouldn't have let them back into it because we were so dominant and we had so many chances across both legs. With 15 minutes to go, whatever it was, it shouldn't have been a 1-goal tie at that point. So no, it wasn't inevitable. It was just very Forest, I guess. But their goal was. People like to jump on Morato, and I can be guilty of that as well because he does make a lot of mistakes. I don't think that was one of them. Murillo jumped for it. I think it just nipped off somebody's head, whether it was Murillo's head or the attacker's head, and that. So he couldn't have expected that shift in trajectory. It just hit him, didn't it, and bounced off him, and then got whacked into the net from 8 yards out. So it's just one of those things. Scrappy goal. Felt they got the bounce of the ball, and all of a sudden we're level in the tie. Sometimes going about things the hard way, which we seem to do a lot, results in these great moments, though. Because, I think back to the playoffs, going into that final run of games in that season, we were all hoping for automatic promotion. I think we went away to Bournemouth, and we either lost or drew. I'd have to remember, but we didn't win that game, and that was okay, we're going to finish in the playoffs now. Up until that point, we all wanted to finish second. And had we finished second, we wouldn't have had those moments we wouldn't have the Sheffield United game in the semi-final and Reece Samba's performance, and wouldn't have had the playoff day that everybody loved and memories that were made. And, if we'd have stayed up comfortably in the first season, we wouldn't have had those moments where, the Taiwo goals on the back end and the Arsenal win. And sometimes these things, difficulties result in the best memories, and last night was probably a great example of that. They shouldn't have been in the game, but now we've got that memory of extra time in a European game, a penalty shootout in a European game, coming through it, and we're probably, as a group, as a squad, better for having gone through that. The camaraderie it builds and the confidence it builds, that if we'd have just kind of strolled through second gear and knocked out Midtjylland. So it could be a turning point in our season, and it could be because we went about it the hard way and triumphed over adversity. So a little bit cheesy, but maybe it's a turning point in the season because of that.
Yeah, I think you're onto something, because he's spoken at length about mentality. I think Vítor Pereira put his balls on the line last night, because when you make that many changes, you are saying, look, I'm thinking about Spurs on Sunday, which is what we kind of all wanted him to do. I did. I know a lot of people were the same, thinking, look, we got to stay in the Premier League. And I mentioned in our group chat, look, we were kind of schooling Midtjylland with a so-called second string, but actually we should be, because those players are good, regardless of how much they cost or not. They're Premier League players. They've all got good reputations. McAtee's played at Man City, for heaven's sake. And, others have played in other areas and other teams and all done really well. But ultimately, these second string players still needed to step up because the confidence hadn't been there. McAtee did that. You guys spoke about him and Bakwa. Again, I mentioned Zach Abbott because he took a little bit of heat because he was thrown into the lion's den by Dyche away at Leeds, which should never have happened. But last night he came back in and he gave a mature performance, and didn't put a foot wrong, I don't think. Morato, you're right, he's a pantomime villain. But again, he did fine last night. Milenkovic led superbly. I think when you're bringing on your first teamers who are used to starting games and managing games from the off, they're not used to being introduced as subs en masse. So sometimes I kind of think, I'm not trying to give them a bit of a pass, but there's always going to be maybe a little bit of a change in energy. And when you go to 2-0 up and then you're trying to maybe manage the game, maybe you sit a bit deeper, maybe you change your thinking in the game. But ultimately, as a collective, as a squad, we got through that tie. It wasn't just the first teamers. It was actually a real collective effort from every single one of them put a shift in. So it was, a fantastic, fantastic win. And we're all back in. Come on, we can win this Europa League. Finish 17th, win the Europa League, Richard Spray. It's on, isn't it? I'm dreaming, and my mysticness is going to come and happen, isn't it, Richard?
I was going to say, your Spidey sense is back up. You're back into the 17th in the Premier League and then winning the Europa trophy again. You firmly have believed that. You've been saying it. I know you've recently been a bit, downtrodden with the whole possibility of relegation and all that. But I think Jamie's right. I mean, we use the word galvanized quite frequently recently, I think. And it feels like this is that thing that potentially could kind of really allow us to pivot into a bit better ways of operating and performing and getting those moments, because we've just been a fraction off here and there. They say this, Steph will know because she likes American football. When coaches start saying we're just so close, we're so close, a lot of times you feel like, well, that's coming off of losses. And when you say that, man, you're probably close to being fired, actually, because you're just not getting across the line. But in this case, I think it's true. I think we've been a fraction off. The passes have just not quite been there. The playing the ball, getting past. I mean, Ndoye, like Jamie, one thing is he passed that first man, but when the second man comes, he just collapses. So it's just those little moments that I think haven't been there for us, and it felt like it finally did last night. So yeah, I'm elated. I'm glad that I was wrong. I'm glad that we didn't, even though it may have looked at first pass on the team sheet, that first starting 11 maybe looked like capitulation. I'm glad he knew what he was doing, because he recognized what they lacked in terms of quality and what we still had, because he's watching these guys give their effort on the training ground. He's talked about, like I said earlier, about McAtee. So I think they finally got a chance to showcase. They finally got a chance to prove their quality, just slightly moving it in the right direction, right? We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but definitely invokes a lot more confidence, I think, and belief going forward.
Okay, so we went to extra time. We had our chances with disallowed goals for Lorenzo Luca, who looked like he was pushed offside. And of course, right at the end, Ryan Yates just couldn't keep himself on side. And I thought, here we go again, another offside moment. The shootout came. And again, maybe it's just because I'm used to kind of this season being so disappointing. I kind of thought, this could just now be the one point where we do bow out. But yeah, they couldn't get one on target. You've all seen the penalties. We don't need to talk about the ins and outs of it. But I want to say thank you very much to Mike Tolberg for his respectful tone afterwards. The interview he gave was really good. You know, they were obviously disappointed, but you know, I listened to his interview and I thought that was excellent. And I also thought Vítor Pereira managed the game really well. And Steph mentioned it earlier. They've had more time with this manager now. So his principles and his foundations are now hopefully spreading through. We got a win. It's his second win. And he's now hoping we can get a win on Sunday in the Premier League. Going to be back after the break to talk about the Spurs match in just a moment. Before we go to the break, just a quick reminder that Forest play Porto in the quarter-final. The first leg will be away in Porto before returning to Forest for the second leg. The winners of that will play either Bologna or Aston Villa. And then on the other side of the draw, the finalists will be Braga, Betis, Freiburg or Celta Vigo. So, listen, we've got a chance in this competition, and the squad players have shown that they can be relied on to step up and help the whole club out on both competitions.
Talking Reds have partnered with sports fashion brand The Streets Will Remember to showcase their Nottingham Forest Miracle Men range, a collection inspired by the iconic back-to-back European Cup wins from Forest's history. The range includes caps, hoodies, t-shirts and socks, designed for supporters who want Forest culture represented properly, away from generic merch and rooted in football memory. Each piece reflects the achievements, spirit and greatness of the Forest legends we honour. Creating more than fashion, The Streets Will Remember craft timeless narratives that inspire, connecting style with the essence of sporting excellence. We'll be wearing pieces from the Miracle Men collection on the channel, and you can explore the full range via the link in the bio. If Forest history matters to you, this one is definitely worth a look.
The Streets Will Remember. We've partnered with them. You can get your 15% off when you quote the code TRP15. Be mindful if you're stateside or anywhere else in that part of the world. Import duty is a thing, and you might get stung a little bit on that. I think Miss Wilkinson can attest to that, can't you, Steph?
Yeah, but it's all right. It'll be worth it when it shows up.
It is a lovely hoodie. So the hoodies, I've got the cap on, the Forest Slide Dye cap. And I'm going to hand over to Richard. Before I do, thank you, Red Dog. He says, smash the like button and subscribe to this fantastic channel for the fabulous content they provide. That's a wonderful commentary. Thank you so much, Richard.
All right, yeah, transition. We like a bit of transition in football, so we'll kind of put that behind us. We'll keep it in the memory bank. We'll always remember it. We'll always be grateful for that moment, but we'll transition now to Spurs. So, and by the way, Jamie, don't ever apologize for cheese, because I think we like a bit of cheese on this podcast. We're all part of the cheese revolution, right, Greg? So thank you for a little bit of cheese there, Jamie. We appreciate that. But anyway, I'm going to start with Greg real quick, because I think bringing you in on this, we've talked quite a bit, I think, in that first half, just about what you're going to see coming off of that. So from your perspective, any possible way there's an emotional, physical toll that we've undergone that maybe it is going to have more of an impact when we thought, and do you think just the travel, the kinds of things that you have to go through with that, and just the way the match unfolded, any concerns at all from you, Greg, about any of that having an impact on us on Sunday?
No, quite negatively.
The opposite. Yeah,
no, quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. As I touched on, I thought the minutes were handled really well. One or two people on X were kicking off about it. I'm like, what? How can you possibly kick off? You know, the minutes were handled really well. These players can manage playing up to 60 minutes on a Thursday night before playing on the Sunday. I mean, yeah, I know we've got to travel back from Denmark, but they're not walking back, by the way. I mean, so come on, let's get it right. Let's get it right. I know that it does add up a little bit, but they're going to be so buzzed, as I just said before the break. It meant that McAtee made the difference. Bakwa, you know, Luca as well. I mean, he wasn't amazing, but he showed a nice little bit of footwork at one point with a little bit of a flick and a twist. So he performed to the level we needed to. I know he faded late on, but you know, he's not going to feature on Sunday. He played 120 minutes. It's going to be Igor Jesus and it's going to be Tyrone Wanye as the strike options. They've been preserved. We kept Igor back. He hasn't played. If Matt Sells comes in goal, he hasn't played, although goalkeeper's probably different. Callum wasn't even in the squad, but I don't know if there's an injury or not. I hope not. He didn't play. Gibbs White played 45 minutes or whatever it was. So all these players coming back should now be hanking and hungry to play, thinking, we've just got to win. Let's back it up with a win in the Premier League. So no, I'm not worried about the travel. I'm not worried about penalties because it lasted 3 minutes. You know, they hit the post. I mean, can I just say, I did actually call each and every one as well. I said, he's missing, and that one's definitely going over as well. So there's something in me at the moment. I am Mystic Greg, 17th and winning the Europa League, by the way, guys. So, yeah, I absolutely think it's galvanised me. It's galvanised everybody. We were worried about our inability, so-called inability to score goals. I do think we've broken the seal now, you know, and I think that the players like Gibbs-White, who's stood up recently, they have stood up and they've played well. Anderson was really going for it. I know he got the yellow card, but, you know, I'm not worried about that. Away at Porto, he gets rested. We've shown that we can replace him with someone else. I don't want us relying on just one or two players. I want us to have a collective. I want us to have a squad that play for each other. And McAtee, for me, I said it when Vítor Pereira came in. I just felt like McAtee could have an important story in the rest of this season that Vítor Pereira might unlock him. I'm not saying that he's unlocked him completely, but we saw last night and we saw in a previous match, I think that it was the French Varus game, which I know was a Sean Dyche match, but we know that he can play football and we know that he can unlock defences. So no, on Sunday, quite the opposite. I think they'll come back galvanised. I think they'll come back looking to win and they'll go for the throat. That's what I'm hoping for.
Brilliant. What about you, Steph? I think you and I both love sports. I mean, we all do. But momentum is something that we hear a lot. So from your perspective, how much of kind of a psychological edge does that give Forest? Because it feels like they've got the momentum, doesn't it?
It does. And I'm hoping it gives us a big one because we don't seem to be able to string wins together. So, you know, and we have to win against Spurs on Sunday. So I am just hoping that, you know, all of that excitement and all the energy and just the cohesiveness of how the team was playing together will bode well for us on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, thank you. Yeah, from a team selection standpoint, I know Greg touched on it. He asked us about it in the first half of the pod. But from your perspective, how much do you think what was done sets the stage now? And kind of just generally, as we're going to get on to looking at some teams that we put together, what are your thoughts in terms of how that affects the way that we go about this now in terms of seeing some of these fringe players get a little bit more confidence, and does that affect the way that you think he'll want to approach the team selection in this match against Spurs?
I think the big question is whether he goes 3 at the back again. And maybe so. I think maybe Morato's performance gives him confidence to include Morato and go 3 at the back, which I wouldn't be upset to see. We seem to play. I think our best performances have come in this 3-5-2 formation, or kind of with the 2 10s. Because let's be honest, our wingers, all 4 of them, have, you know, not been in great form throughout the season. So the 3 at the back allows us to have kind of 2 10s inside a bit more, and that might allow McAtee to play alongside Gibbs-White. I wouldn't mind seeing that behind Jesus. So yeah, I think the performance of some of them does give him something to think about. I wouldn't mind seeing Morato play and McAtee play from the starters last night. And, you know, the kind of more regular players surrounding them. Yeah, it's hard to overstate how important Sunday is, isn't it? Because you feel like West Ham, the momentum they're on, the results they're getting, I can't see them going down. Like we all know Nuno and what he's building. It takes some time to kind of build the momentum and the team spirit, but once it's there, you just go on these runs, and that's where West Ham are now. He started slow and their fans couldn't really see what he was doing, but now he's got the team spirit together and they're just putting performances in, and you just feel like once they go ahead of us, it's hard to see us overtaking them back. So Spurs really are the one you look at. You know, they're broken mentally, and they're the one you look at as the team we could finish above. If we go on Sunday and lose, we're in big trouble. Big trouble. So it's a massive, massive game. I don't think we have to win, but I certainly think we have to not lose. I'd take a draw at this point, but I think we can go there and win. But it's we'll have a pretty. There's a scenario by evening on Sunday where we could be in major trouble, which we need to try and avoid as much as we can. So it's a big game, big game.
Well, and I kind
Absolutely.
of feel that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. Oh, go ahead, Steph.
No, I was just also thinking when you're looking at like momentum and mindset, Forest is never easy. Nothing is ever easy for us. And I just feel like we have a better ability to have that mental wherewithal versus the Spurs, because I don't think their players have ever experienced what this fight is actually going to be like. And all we know is what a fight looks like. So I'm really hoping that, we can just go in there and annihilate them and break them emotionally, physically.
Well, I mean, go ahead, James.
You look at a lot of their players and their just body language and general demeanor, and you feel like they think none of this is their fault. Like that's how it feels looking from the outside. Their ego levels are, this isn't our fault. It's management decisions and terrible managers, and I feel like they're waiting for Igor Tudor to get sacked, then someone else to come in, and they're in a big problem. And I agree with Steph. Like they're not cut out for that. And if we can go and beat them, that could be the final nail in their coffin mentally. So it's hard to overstate how big this is. I know our very own Paul Morley said he was on a Spurs pod earlier, and they were talking about it as their biggest game in 40 years or something in the league. Like something that they're feeling the pressure massively.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can take advantage of that. To your point, Stephanie, Steph, I think that's interesting that those first two seasons, upon reflection, where we are right now, actually provide us a little bit of an edge too, as well, right? The psychological edge, like you mentioned. So that's brilliant. Yeah. As always, guys, we ask you to like and subscribe. We're on all the socials, not LinkedIn, because we like to quote LinkedIn in the past. We're not on LinkedIn, but we are on everything else. We are on all audio only platforms as well. So we appreciate those who tune in audio only, and grateful for the feedback and any type of comments you guys give us. So thank you for that. And I also wanted to just quickly, I think it was 3-Star Reds who said, just quickly shout out 3-Star Reds, happy birthday, sir, or madam, whoever that is. Happy birthday. We're grateful that you're joining us today, and we appreciate that they got a win for you on your birthday. So that's excellent. All right, we're going to go look at teams now. And Jamie, I think you might be happy with a few of these, because there is one that I think you've been quoting. So Greg, we'll turn it to you first. What are your thoughts on, and I'll read out the team real quick. So we got Sells in goals. We got Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic, Aina, that typical back four. So this is a 4-2-3-1. We've got Anderson, Sangari in that midfield, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, Hutchinson, Armin, playing that in attacking three. And then we've got Jesus up top, because he did get a rest. I mean, we didn't talk about that. He got a really nice amount of rest yesterday and didn't have to be utilized, which hopefully will pay dividends in this match. So Greg, this kind of feels like the sort of typical formation we've seen, typical sort of personnel. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think there's any chance that he wants to deviate from this, or that he'll stick with this as his quote unquote best 11?
No, I think this will probably be the team that starts, because of the way he managed everyone's minutes in last night's game. The back four will pick itself. It could be Ortega in goal, as Jamie touched on earlier. Let me just also add on Ortega. He is an ultimate professional. No, he really is. He has been a big, huge beast in the form of Man City, and he's at Forest now. And the way he's conducting himself is, I'm your player, and he said it in his first interview. He's only here to the end of the season at the moment, but he said, I'll give everything for the shirt. And I think we're seeing that. And if he plays, I think we'll all be quite happy, because he is another really good goalkeeper. We've got two strong goalkeepers. So it could be Sells, could be Ortega. So that might be one area that you don't see this team. Anderson, Sangare are the obvious picks as well, as are possibly the front four. I mean, if Hudson-Odoi is carrying an injury, maybe that's why he didn't feature in the squad last night at all, then it might be a Dan N'Doye moment. I feel Dan N'Doye is more of an impact player at the moment. Jamie was wondering how he fits in, and I think that off the bench is his best chance to do something for us. I'm not sure that we should be going to a 4-3-3 personally. I know that's going to be an option that we talk about. I want to see us on the front foot. Sangare had a great game against Spurs in the home match. And I think that we've got the beating of them in the midfield area with those two there. Dominguez played a lot last night. I know he came off for extra time, and he's got an engine. So it's potential that maybe if Hudson-Odoi is injured, that Dominguez fills that side on on the left hand side as a more of an insurance player. But yeah, Igor Jesus surely has to be a shoo-in to start. I can't imagine there's going to be anyone else. Maybe Tyro's better off the bench as well. We've talked about Tyro starting, but maybe he is more of an impact player, and that's how we should be using him. So yeah, this 4-2-3-1 to me feels more likely as the 11 that will line up, albeit could be Ortega for Sales.
Brilliant. Yeah, let's flick to the next one, because I want to have Jamie jump in on this, because he's referenced the possibility of McAtee. So I'm going to read this one out for those who aren't able to see it. Sells in goal again. Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic, Ina. So typical back four, your typical midfield of Anderson, Sangari. But this time we're going to insert Hudson-Odoi, McAtee, Gibbs-White, playing a bit more of a wide role, which I think, and Jesus up top. So Jamie, what do you think this offers from an attacking standpoint? Because McAtee actually did a decent job of dropping back at times and challenging players to get dueling them and trying to win the ball back at times. So that was good to see. It didn't look like he was getting knocked off the ball quite as easily, which is good, because you're hoping that functional strength's coming into play with the training that he's getting and everything else. So from your perspective, how might this formation, and again, a 4-2-3-1, but inserting McAtee to kind of help provide a little bit more creativity or something, from your perspective, how does that give us an advantage?
I like this. I think it gives us, from an attacking perspective, the ability to play at a couple of different speeds. So Gibbs-White is at his best when he's on the turn, taking the ball, running into space with space ahead of him. So this gives us that, because he would still sit quite narrow from that right, I think. But it also gives us the ability, when we're in possession and Spurs are sitting deeper, sitting off, to McAtee to pick a pass in a more calm way, which Gibbs-White does struggle with, I think. I think from a defensive perspective as well, Gibbs-White puts a bit more of a shift in than Hutchinson does. So I wouldn't, if they've got maybe Jed Spence at left back, you'd fancy Gibbs-White to track his runs better than you would Hutchinson. I know it's not what Gibbs-White wants to be doing, but he puts, his work rate can't be questioned. It puts a lot of impetus on Aina, I think, to provide the width on that right, but he only played, what did we say, Greg? 45 minutes, something like that last night. So yeah, you should have the legs to do that. So I wouldn't be upset by this team at all. I think that's an option. We haven't really, that I can think of, explored it there. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that. Yeah.
Steph, you have any thoughts on this one too? I mean, I was going to get your thoughts on the next one, but I'm curious if you have anything that you want to add to what Jamie said.
I really like this. I actually think, we all know that Jesus needs to be fed more. And I feel like this particular formation and having Gibbs-White and McAtee and Hudson-Odoi, I think we would have more offensive prowess having these players on the pitch, particularly at the same time. And, the first setup that we already went through, candidly, just feels boring. Like, I feel like, and I mean it. Yeah. And I also feel like I like mixing it up, because, if you're looking at from a Spurs perspective, putting something a little bit different out there could potentially have them be even more on their back foot.
Yeah, I get it. I'm putting it together. I mean, I think Greg, we've called for some iteration of this in the past as well. Just at the opportunity to see McAtee, who's been on that, and when he's shown in Europe, he's shown he can be effective. He did that again last night. So, any thoughts for you, or it's not going to happen?
He's not going to start away at Spurs. No.
Yeah,
he just won't do it. He just won't go away. It's big. The context of the game is huge. I mean, as much as I like it, this is more of a formation for a home game. I don't think it's an away formation, personally.
Gotcha. All right, let's flip to the next one. So Raf isn't here, but in honor of Raf, we'll insert a 4-3-3. Steph, from your perspective, I mean, you talked about the offensive benefit of the last one, inserting McAtee, who is a very offensively oriented player. So from your perspective, is there any value to potentially maybe like feeling the match out with this? So for those, again, not watching, Sells in goal, Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic, Ina in that flat four in the back. You got Anderson, Sangari, Dominguez, who's played brilliantly as well when he's been playing. We all know he could be a starter. We can consider him that, but he also has at times been dropped in favor of other players, or different formations. But Hudson-Odoi, Jesus, and Gibbs-White up top, and Gibbs-White again playing a bit more of a wide role, but of course he can drift and let Hudson-Odoi play up top with Jesus, or vice vice versa, that could potentially happen because we've seen Callum be a good central player as well at times. So from your perspective, is there any validity to this? Maybe having the midfield packed a little bit more, be a little bit more controlled in that center of the pitch?
I mean, I do think that there's a case for this, and I think, I just really like when Dominguez is on the pitch. I think his work rate is excellent. I think, when we're looking at a little bit with like Olaina, I'm really not sure that he's fully fit back to being match fit. So I do think having Dominguez in that midfield can kind of basically help us out in a defense position as well. It's just his hustle and his work rate.
Excellent. Yeah, Andrew's saying in the comments, if you play that 3, you have to have a natural 9 who's going to stretch the play, which I don't disagree with that. I think that's a great comment. All right, Greg, we'll flip to the last one, and I want to get you and Jamie's thoughts on this because this is that back 3 option. So we've got Sells, we've got Murillo, Milenkovic, this time with Aina, to your point, Steph. I mean, he has been crashing the box a little bit more. He has been playing in a more advanced role. We know he's capable of doing that. We know he has the pace. We know he has the adeptness on the ball. But Greg, from your perspective, is there any validity to this back 3 along with the Williams, Anderson, Sangare, Yates? We're putting Yates in this time to honor the performance that happened and having that little bit of physicality and that height. Because as we get onto the Oppo preview, you'll see why there's some value to having height on the pitch. And then this time putting Bakwa in, because he did play decently on the right. I thought he seemed to shine a little bit more when he moved over to the right last night, and he can play that wing back role. And then you've got Jesus and Gibbs White up top, which we've said pairing somebody with Jesus we think is a better way of doing this, right? So, Greg, what do you think about this formation, this 3-5-2?
I like the 3-5-2. I think that there's something in it. I don't think we'll see Aina as a third centre back. It's something that we put forward. I don't think Vítor Pereira will do that. I think Jamie's right. Morato staked a claim to be the third centre back because Jerkin is injured. So if you go to a back 3, I'm confident it will be Morato who plays alongside Murillo Milenkovic, which means Aina would fill in as a right-sided wing back. Now, one thing I did notice yesterday, when we played with wing backs in the 3-5-2, which started with Ndoye and Bakwa, they're wingers that are playing as wing backs. They played about 10 yards or more further up as their starting point. So we were more attacking with them as wing backs than when we went back to a 3-5-2 when Nico and Ola Aina were playing as wing backs, because they are defenders playing as wing backs. And so they therefore shifted back a little bit. They weren't in as much of an advanced position. So when you've got wing backs playing, if they're naturally wingers versus natural fullbacks, you get a little bit something different out of them. So that's worth considering as well. I mean, Bakwa's, he staked a claim to get some minutes. I, again, don't see him starting. I think if you do go to 3-5-2, it will be Williams and Aina in the wing back role, but you've got Luca Netz as well. So even if Aina did play as a centre back, then I think you'd have Williams and Luca Netz, because Netz is an uber left wing back. Anderson Sangare, Yates played a lot of minutes last night. We love him. I wouldn't be against him starting. I liked Igor Jesus with Gibbs White next to him. I think when Gibbs White's playing further up the pitch in the final third, if you like, that's when I think he comes to life more. He's got a little bit more fizz about him. He might be disappointed that he didn't get included in Thomas Tuchel's England squad, a very big England squad this morning. No surprise really to me and maybe our other Forest fans. I know he scored his most goals for us this season, but that doesn't tell the full story of his season. He hasn't been at his best. Lately, he has come back to that. So I'm selfishly pleased he's not in the England squad because I want him focusing on Forest. Next to Igor Jesus, I think he can cause some real damage. So, yeah, the 3-5-2 for me is a good formation. I'm just not sure that would be the personnel.
Sounds good. Jamie, anything to add to that before we kind of turn it over to Greg for the opposition preview?
No, I agree. That I'd play this formation, Aina right wing back. I wouldn't start Yates because of his 120 minutes. I would maybe say is Anderson Sangare in the middle as a 2. Aketi and Gibbs White in the 10s and Jesus as the 9.
Brilliant. All right, Greg, we'll take that down. I know we're running out of time here, so we'll give you a chance to talk about Spurs, and we have a couple of other things before we conclude, but turn it over to you for opposition preview to look at Spurs.
Okay, so we won't spend too long on Spurs. I think, again, the so-called Big Sky Six potentially are the ones in the Premier League that I would say most passing fans of other teams probably know more about. They've been in the news a lot because of their record. Obviously, sacking Thomas Frank meant that they themselves were looking at a managerial change with Igor Tudor coming in, which for me was a complete head scratcher. And as he got off and running, it became even more evident that this really wasn't working out for them as a club. And they were talking about the possibility of him getting sacked quite quickly into his caretaker tenure. You know, the heavy defeat at home to Arsenal was not a big surprise. But then when they went to Fulham and lost as well, that started to really kind of wake up the fans to the real possibility that they were going to be included in this relegation battle. When they are then at home to Crystal Palace and Mickey van der Ven decides he's going to haul down one of their players and get a red card after Spurs had gone in front, you know, the whole atmosphere in the stadium changed dramatically because they had been under the cosh from Crystal Palace. They grabbed the goal through Dominic Solanke, and then they thought, you know what, we're on our way here. Van der Ven intervened, and all of a sudden they imploded, and they were 3-1 down in the blink of an eye. And that's how it ended. So that kind of almost set the tone for when they went away to that Atletico Madrid. And we all know, and I think everyone saw the Kinski moments and the slipping moments away at Atletico to effectively put them out of the Champions League. So the pressure on Tudor and the pressure on these players from the fan base and from the media was really getting ramped up. We know about their injury crisis. They had it last season and they've had it this season as well. And they've had one or two coming back now, but long-term absences obviously include Maddison and Kulusevski. And you can add into that Odegaard, Bentancur, Mohamed Kudus, who was a really good signing for them. Ben Davies out, Basuma out. They've just started to get back. I mean, Bergval's come back in to the mix, and one or two others as well. Romero, the red card meant he was out for 4 games and he's back. Van der Ven was absent against Liverpool. He's now back. So as much as we're kind of cooing about Forest being on a bit of a high, they went to Liverpool on Sunday, and Liverpool haven't been great this season. They've been very hot and cold. And when Liverpool went 1-0 up with Szoboszlai's free kick, I thought, and I think all Forest fans thought, right, another Spurs hiding is on the cards. It wasn't to be. They came back. They showed a bit of grit. Richarlison, who is a bit of a pantomime villain himself, he scored the goal. They got the 1-1. And I wondered, would that be the moment where they think this is the momentum bite we need, and this is the moment that we need to really kind of galvanise ourselves? So when Atletico Madrid comes to town in the second leg, Spurs have got it all to do, and they did win that game. And they will hold on to that 3-2 victory against Atletico Madrid, albeit going out of the tie. And I think that could be enough for them to say, you know what, we've got something about us. We've got strong players in our team, such as Jed Spence, such as Van der Ven, Romero, Sarr. Matthias Tell came to life against Madrid, as did Xavi Simons, who's flattered to deceive. They scored some very good goals. They hit very fast. And on the counter, they can be quite devastating. Their goal that was the header, the first goal, was just such a lovely, sweet move. And to see that ball go in the back of the net, I kind of thought this is just going to galvanise the crowd. So that's going to be a key factor in this game on Sunday. How much we can quieten the crowd, because they were loud for Spurs on Thursday night. I live in a very strong Tottenham area myself. I know a lot of Tottenham fans. They are certainly feeling it. But at the same time, it won't take much for us to unsettle them if Forest can go on the attack. Spurs, like in an offensive way, in their offensive set piece, I beg your pardon, in an offensive style, their set pieces, their attacking wide play is a real strength for theirs. And they are good at defending set pieces. We want to try and hit them by maintaining possession ourselves. If we can keep a lot of the ball and actually get them chasing shadows a little bit, that can actually start to get the crowd turning on the players. Archie Gray's been a little bit of a shining light for them, but he made the mistake at the City ground, and hopefully we should be hassling him with our midfield options to try and get the ball into our final third and into our wingers. Just quickly, do want to say a lot of their goals have come from open play, 58%. They do score from set pieces. They do score on the counter, very rarely, in fact, just a couple of goals coming from that side of things. They, in the action zones, 30% in their own third, 42% down the middle, and they spend about 27% of the game in the opposition third. So, look, they're in the position that they're in for a reason. They haven't been very good this season. They had their own ups and downs. Some say they should have sacked Thomas Frank earlier, but they are where they are. And this game has come round. And for them, they're calling it one of the biggest games in a generation. If we lose, is it the end of things? I'm not sure it is. But I certainly think we've got enough to go there and cause Spurs problems. An early goal for Forest could set the cat amongst the pigeons. We know that they like a red card. So maybe that's something to think about as well. Where their goals coming from? Well, Richarlison's got 9. Romero and Van der Ven from the back have come up with 4 each. Paulinia's had concussion. He may well still be out. We should be taking shots, I believe, from distance and looking to trouble Vicario. He is suspect from distance. So that would be an area that we should try and target as well. There you go.
Brilliant. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Well, we've kind of come to the conclusion, so we're going to just give Steph a chance to give us a prediction on this match. Any other thoughts, too? I mean, do you think the pressure on them is going to be a vulnerability for them, or do you think that's going to be an advantage for them because they might backs against the wall and all that? Maybe they'll come out fighting.
I don't think it's going to be an advantage to them. And I think if we can come out swinging and quiet that crowd down, I don't think that they're going to really be able to have the fortitude to compete against us. So I'm actually going to go 3-0 Forest.
Nice. I like that positivity. That's usually the Greg choice, right? Typically from Greg, it's usually the 3-0. I like your stealing his thunder while also gaining your own thunder in that. Excellent. Greg, what about you, man? And any from a prediction standpoint, anything you want to add to what Steph said and just your overall prediction about the match?
Well, just to say also for those watching and listening, Jamie's had to dip out, unfortunately. So Jamie's left the pod. Thank you. Thanks to him for being with us. In terms of the game, look, just said it. It's going to be tense. It's going to be tight. Would I take a point here and now? Probably, because I think I'm in the headspace that every point counts. But I think we can win this. We've shown that in the game at the City Ground. It was amazing to be in the crowd that day. We scored some wonderful goals, and Spurs are still not out of this, even though I've just talked about them possibly holding on to the point away at Liverpool as a momentum moment, and the win against Atletico Madrid on Wednesday night for them. They won that game with their first teamers. They won that game having to play their first teamers because they are still stretched thin. I know they've had an extra day's rest and they haven't had to travel, but that's still a factor potentially. So, look, I'm always going to back my team. I'm always going to back Forest. I'm going to say 2-1 because I still think that conceding goals is a goal is a possibility to this team. Dominic Solanke, I think, might be the difference maker at some point for them in this season because he is a goal scorer. And my worry about Forest getting relegated was the fact we weren't scoring goals. And so, therefore, that could be a differential. So I'm going to say 2-1. I'm not going to put any names on scorers because that never comes to pass. But yeah, 2-1 win for Forest to take us into the international break. And then the next game after that now will be the first quarterfinal leg. So we're going to have a nice break. So leave nothing in the change room. Leave it all on the pitch on Sunday. Get these players oiled up, greased up, massaged up, ready for battle.
Excellent.
Steph, I'm volunteering you for some of that massaging.
Okay, sounds good.
Just a quick jaunt over there to do a few massages, right?
Just a quick flight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of in the camp with Daniel Hall. I think it's a 1-0 win for Forest. I think it's going to be one of those weird sort of like both teams are feeling each other out. Maybe we'll have a few chances. Maybe they'll have a few chances and we just don't convert. And then we get one of those, worldy goals that we've been talking about from someone right outside the box. Maybe another Sangare moment. That would be brilliant. But I kind of agree with Daniel there. Andrew Haywood's going to be there. So it looks like he's going to be there to watch them and cheer on the boys. So that's excellent. He also said that he thinks it's a 0-1 win for Forest, and he thinks Morgan Gibbs-White's going to score against the team he thought he was going to, right? So thankfully he didn't. We're glad to have him as our top goal scorer. Well, thanks everybody for jumping in the comments. Steph, been absolutely amazing to have you back on. Grateful you were able to join us, as well as Jamie. Yet, thank you, Greg, for calling that out, and feel bad that we obviously went too long for him and his schedule, but that's okay. It's understandable. We're all working. We're all trying to fit things in. But the one thing we do know is we love this team. And like Marine Boy 01 says, we can win this, guys. I can't disagree. I think we can win this. So everyone just keep the faith, keep the belief going, and remember, miracles do happen. Come on, you Reds.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.